Good evening, everyone. Governor Harry Hughes told Eastern Shore farmers that he's going to do what he can to help them recover from the summer drought. Hughes made his remarks at Y Institute's Crop and Soil Field Day, and Devlin was there.
You aren't going to find too many farmers complaining about getting rain these days, but today's raindrops sure did put a damper on the University of Maryland's Agriculture Day at the Y Institute. Farmers had to huddle here under an outdoor tent to eat lunch and listen to several speakers this afternoon, including Governor Harry Hughes.
We know that there are less farmers today than there were several years ago, something like 16,000, but you contribute greatly to our economy. Something like $3.8 billion of economic activity is generated by you, the farmers of Maryland.
But this year, farmers' contributions to the economy will be way off. This has been a grim summer for many of these farmers. Long stretches of hot, dry weather have left crops like this corn underdeveloped and unmarketable.
It has, in many respects, had a cold, wet spring and turned right dry. Parts of the state have been severely drought. Pollination of corn in particular is a big problem. A lot of farmers have perfectly good-looking plants and no corn.
We've been on the fringe of the water rain, and we're very lucky that we've had moisture right on through the summer.
Have you experienced any financial losses?
Not myself any more than the hot weather's probably going to cut back on the yield of the corn.
The final figures on this season's losses aren't in yet, but here are the state's estimates released today. 25% of all crops are gone, and in dollars, crop and livestock losses are adding up to about $75 million. There is no state subsidy for farmers, but growers losing 60% or more of their normal yield can apply for federal help. When the skies finally cleared this afternoon, farmers at the Ag Day were able to pile up on trucks and take tours of the University of Maryland's crop experiments here at the Y Institute. Even though this season was a bust for many of them, now it's time to get growing tips for next year. Ann Devlin, Newswatch 47 at the Y Institute.
The State Farm Bureau Federation says Maryland has lost about half of its farmland since the turn of the century. Progress is the enemy. Bureau spokesman Jack Matthews says land which once was used to grow food is now being used for airports, highways, shopping centers, and subdivisions. And farmers weren't let out of the international relations situation. At the State Department, a Soviet grain embargo and the problems of labor strikes in Poland became one. John Scally has more.
The State Department cautiously avoided all direct comment on the Polish crisis for fear it might be accused of encouraging an anti-communist uprising.
I have no comment to offer, and I will have no comment to offer on the demands being made by the Polish workers. There will be none.
The deliberate U.S. silence, now being coordinated with other allied governments, is clearly intended to calm the Polish turmoil before it triggers a far wider crisis in East-West relations. Top allied leaders are reportedly advising extreme caution as tension escalates, with little evidence that a compromise settlement can be arranged. Most U.S. intelligence authorities believe Moscow wants to avoid any military crackdown. The 200,000-man Polish army is believed to be strongly anti-Russian, but it is encircled by Soviet troops everywhere. Moscow keeps 30,000 troops in Poland alone. The overwhelming number, 400,000 men, are stationed in East Germany, but there are also 60,000 in Czechoslovakia, 30,000 in Hungary, and 2 million more in the Soviet Union. The deepening Polish unrest reverberated in a congressional committee today, with Wisconsin Senator Proxmire claiming the U.S. grain embargo on shipments to Russia contributed to unrest in Poland.
The strike in Poland, which we can document, is in part a result of a shortage of consumer goods, agricultural goods, food, and we're contributing to that.
Administration experts deny Proxmire's charge and claim that while exports to Russia have gone down, American grain shipments to Poland have doubled this year. John Scally, ABC News, Washington.
Locally, truckers in a labor dispute with Purdue Farms kept a picketing vigil today in Accomack, but company spokesmen and union officials differ on the number of pickets and the effectiveness of the strike. Becky Gebhard has the latest.
As the strike at Purdue Farms enters its 10th day, it's hard to tell the players from the stayers. But one thing is certain, both striking drivers and Purdue officials are getting weary of the status quo. Privately, some drivers are talking about going back to work, but in public, they picket to the tune of a different drummer.
We're going to give them leadership, direction, instead of them being out there like when they came to us, standing out under a shade tree somewhere. We're going to make sure that they get what they're entitled to as far as job security.
The controversy over how many drivers are still out on strike is still going on. The union says it has the majority. Purdue says only 35 of the drivers are still out. An informed source agrees. He says the figure is about 35 of the 115 drivers. This number controversy has now spilled over to the operation of the Accomack plant.
According to the figures we get, it's cut down to approximately 50% of their production. From what we gather, they have 2 lines running when there ordinarily is 8 running. And we feel we've been very successful in this accomplishment.
Purdue officials say 6 of the 8 lines were operating yesterday.
In order to get those drivers down to Accomack to picket, it seemed that all the drivers were pulled off the picket lines here.
Some of the people have reluctantly rejected, I guess, picketing. For what reason, I don't know. The ones that we took to Accomack when we were strong advocates, or are strong advocates of the union movement.
As this story grinds on, there are 2 other things that we just don't know. What would Purdue officials do if all the workers went back to work tomorrow? And will Purdue's truckers be represented by the Teamsters Union? Becky GEBHARD, Newswatch 47 in Salisbury.
Picture yourself on the deck of the Rusty Rudder restaurant in Dewey Beach, listening and dancing to the steel band sounds of the Caribbean, watching a lively beauty contest, mingling with celebrities, and registering for an all-expense-paid cruise to Bermuda. Just picture yourself boarding the luxurious SS Stottendam. Then picture yourself in the restful arms of the Caribbean. Now put yourself in the picture at the WWTR Bermuda Cruise Party at the Rusty Rudder restaurant in Dewey Beach, Wednesday, August 20th from noon to 4.
The most important card you carry, just show it to clear the way. From Maryland mountains to shore, 1 billion and more depend on us every day.
The Blue Cross and Blue Shield card offers the best in healthcare coverage for everyone, no matter what the situation. Its dependable protection helps meet the needs of 1.5 million Marylanders today and tomorrow.
It's the most important card you carry.
Good morning, Delmarva. I'm David Hartman. Join me weekday mornings at 7 for Good Morning America. We talk with the people making news, and then members of our Good Morning America family bring you information you can use every day. Newswatch 47 has the Delmarva weather and updates on news close to home. Winning combination, Good Morning America and Newswatch 47 on WMDT. Everybody gets the picture.
Parents sometimes have a lot of gripes with school systems. One of them, the kids don't learn enough. So many schools have instituted mandatory proficiency tests to make sure students are not passed along from grade to grade without some basic skills. Well, in one Eastern Shore county, Ann Devlin reports that the testing is as controversial as the school's inability to teach.
Noshima Camper should be moving into 4th grade next year, but she's going to have to repeat 3rd. Her reading skills don't measure up to the Talbot County School District's new testing standards. Noshima's mother, Marilyn Carter, isn't too happy with those new standards. She says her daughter should have had a chance to improve her reading skills over the summer and then be tested again in August.
If a child is just below their reading level, why aren't they offered some kind of summer classes or some kind of tutoring? And if the child can get it during the summer, and if it's just in the reading area, if they can get it in the summer, can't they be tested at the last of August? And if they pass that test, then why can't they be assigned or promoted to the next grade, then to hold them back a whole year?
Mrs. Carter found out in March Noshima flunked. She questions whether the school district should tell children that early that they just didn't make the grade.
How did that make her feel?
Distressed. She didn't care anymore. She was no longer interested. And my children weren't the only one that were told early in the year, you know, that the child was going to retain, and that didn't help the children at all. They gave up. They didn't have any hope.
Talbot County School Superintendent Norman Moore admits the new testing program does have a few kinks, but he's ready to defend it.
I think it's a good first step. I think it was needed. I think it's in response to the public concern for standards within the school system.
Does the school district have plans to start up a summer school that might help students to catch up on what they've missed in the regular school year so that they can advance with their class in September?
Summer school is very good if you can afford it. Here in Talbot County, we're living under such severe fiscal restraints that we were unable to have summer school this year. I would hope in the future that grouping, remedial teaching, summer school, and tutorial programs all will serve to help keep the policy going.
Ann Devlin, Newswatch 47 in Talbot County.
Meanwhile, the president of Salisbury State College had some words on how the state school board decision will affect the new crop of freshmen entering SSC next week.
Salisbury State College has grown tremendously in the last 10 years. Now there's talk at the State Board of Higher Education of limiting freshman enrollment at all the state schools. The board figures that's the best way to deal with a drop in students because of a drop in the birth rate.
If students wish to come here, if we have programs that the people of Maryland want to engage in, we'll make every effort to see that they're allowed to take them, rather than asking them to go clear across the state to take the program.
Salisbury State College President Dr. Thomas Bellavant said the limit he's seen in drafts of the plan differ. There's about 700 freshmen now. A limit of 750 or 800 students has been proposed. But he doesn't think the declining birth rate is the source of the problem.
That's right. Over 25% of the freshmen entering college last year, 25%, that's 8,000 students, left this state and went to other institutions.
Those were some of Maryland's brightest students. Bellavant says schools in Maryland will have to work harder to attract those students. If they can, there will be no need for enrollment limits. Becky Gebhard, Newswatch 47 in Salisbury.
Well, money problems aren't only facing colleges, but a lot of agencies. A few weeks ago, Newswatch 47 reported on a crisis line that's operating in the Salisbury area. Tonight, that Life Crisis Center held a hearing on money problems. Lori Solinger has the story.
We need your money, we need your help, we need your ideas, we need your money, we need your time, and we need your money.
749-HELP. This phone number has reached the hands of the lonely and abused. But now the Life Crisis Center is sending out the SOS for more cash to keep those phones ringing. The center's board of directors held a public hearing tonight to put their heads together and come up with an answer.
And I'm thinking of Christian Shelter. I'm thinking of the group that's working with battered spouses and anything else that might come down the pipe. And they're all depending on the availability of Life Crisis Center to be there to make the referrals at midnight, at 3 o'clock in the morning, or what have you.
You know, I don't mind going on public record stating that I find it an outrage that United Way won't fund us. We're under the auspices of Mental Health Association, and the Mental Health United Way sees fit to fund a great many very middle-class, quote, charitable organizations which don't need it one bit. Boy Scouts, the Y, is used predominantly by very solid middle, upper middle class people.
The center had around 120 calls for help last month, and they need money for training volunteers and consultants or else.
I hate to say it, but I think that it's realistic that we would have to close.
Lori Solinger, Newswatch 47, Salisbury.
Around the peninsula tonight, Delaware State Police have recovered a vehicle that matches the description of one used in last month's robbery of the People's Bank of Mardel. The state of Delaware is coming closer to selling its stock in the Farmers Bank. The state is going to provide information to the public in September and October. Sussex County farmers are faced with an outbreak of ped feeding worms. They threaten all crops, but especially soybeans. And a 76-year-old Cumberland man won $1 million tonight in the Maryland State Lottery. Grayson Lucas won from among 400 finalists. In Vienna today, you may have thought it was the 4th of July, but it was only a beer truck with a flat tire.
When an overturned truck blocked the roadway on the other side of the Nanticoke River. This truck was loaded up with beer and wine when it blew a tire and rolled over on Route 50. The driver, James Campbell of Salisbury, lost control of the vehicle, but he wasn't injured, even though the top of the truck was peeled open like a tin can. Traffic was blocked for 3 hours and the lines stretched back several miles west of the bridge. But finally, the truck was towed away and things got rolling again to the relief of hundreds of stalled motorists. Ann Devlin, Newswatch 47 at the Vienna Bridge.
I've gone to the store and picked up the spray cans and the things that guaranteed they would work and get rid of this insect and that. They haven't helped. Why do you think I called Orkin?
Orkin, we're number one. We get the job done. We're Orkin.
If Orkin wasn't effective, I wouldn't spend my money on them every month. But if you ever have bugs, I think you should call Orkin. That is the only answer.
Big number one.
What excitement!
What an accomplish! Mint.
McDonald's new chocolate mint sundaes and shakes. It's the way chocolate was always meant to taste.
What fresh mint!
What razzle-dazzle mint!
McDonald's new chocolate mint sundaes and shakes are for
the establishment.
For management.
For your government. McDonald's new chocolate mint sundaes and shakes.
Nobody can do it like McDonald's can.
We were meant for each other.
Emmy Award winner Judith Light is Karen Wallach, a wife who risked everything for the truth.
I am a common hooker!
But memories last a lifetime.
Every time you touched me, you remembered the other men.
Where will forgiveness lead?
You look fantastic, honey.
And how long will it last?
Larry?
One Life to Live, weekdays.
You're sorry.
Here.
I'm glad you said it, Archie. Thank you for a wonderful 25 years.
Well, lady, thank you, too. After all, I couldn't have did it without you.
The Bunkers are coming for dinner. Weekdays at 5:30 on 47.
Moving along to weather tonight, you said fog at 6, and by golly, it's foggy out there.
It's getting that way in spots. The visibility down to a mile now at the airport.
Right again, Fischel. I can't believe it.
Well, that's just a common little rule that when you have clouds in the day and it clears up at night, that fog forms. It's just one of those little things you pick up. You know, that's what you
in
pay,
weather school.
That's what you pay $8,000 or whatever to go to school to learn.
I see. Now, see, you just told me that, and I didn't pay anything.
That's right.
Go into competition with Penn State.
You did it the smart way. Anyways, at Salisbury right now, 72 degrees, and the humidity is high as you'll ever see it, 100%. Winds are calm, and the barometer is 29.98 and steady. At Dover, it's 73, the humidity 93, but they also have some fog there, restricting visibility to 3 miles. Winds south of 3, and the barometer 29.92 and steady. High today, a chilly 78. When you compare it to the normals of 86 and 65, there's your low of 70 and your records. Notice how the record high and the low occurred only 1 year apart. So back in the middle 19s, they had a lot of extremes, only 365 days apart. Okay, we'll show you the satellite picture now. And there's a couple of things that are worth pointing out here. One, the big band of clouds that came through here yesterday and then finally skirted off the east coast this evening and allowed us to see a little bit of clearing. That's moving out. The next disturbance, which I'm still a little bit worried about, caused some severe weather in Indiana and Michigan. There you can see the clouds associated with it across that part of the country. That disturbance forecast to weaken as it heads southeastward and hopefully will give us only a few leftover clouds tomorrow, although I wouldn't be shocked and I wouldn't bet my life against that thing kicking off a thunderstorm here tomorrow afternoon. We'll just have to keep our fingers crossed on that one. Okay, we'll go back to the national map and show you what's going on. Not too much change since 6 o'clock, but this frontal system here is making some slow southward progress and will go to the south of the peninsula late tonight and then stall over extreme southern Virginia. And a little weak ridge of high pressure will build in behind it. And the only reason it'll be dramatically warmer tomorrow is that the sun will be out. Of course, the sun is strong in the summer. It comes out. It warms it up into the 80s. But there's no way this 100-degree and 95-degree air can get here for several days because the steering currents in the upper atmosphere are coming from the north-northwest, and the hot air is not up in Canada, folks. It's down here in the plains. And so it's going to take at least till Friday or Saturday for this oppressive heat and humidity to move east, if indeed it ever does. As I mentioned, there are a couple of thunderstorms, even some tornadoes near Muskegon, Michigan, also in central Indiana. The disturbance causing that should weaken, and we don't expect anything nearly that severe here tomorrow. This next cold front out here is strong, but it looks like it's going to weaken. And by the time it gets here, and all the cool air behind it will retreat back up into Canada and cannot give us any real relief or big cooling until probably at least next week, if then. Okay, we'll go over to the regional map now and show you the temperatures cooled down a bit since we talked to you last time, but not all that much. We see everybody in the 70s except a couple of 68s at Easton and Milford. The fog is getting dense in spots, and so take it easy. Now, the radar does have one big thunderstorm tonight near Aberdeen, Maryland. You can see it there. It's heading toward the south-southeast at about 12 to 15 miles an hour, and if it holds together, some people around Chestertown could see some thunder and lightning in the next few hours, but it looks like Cambridge and Easton would have to be awful unlucky for that one to get as far south as them. So if you live up in that part of the peninsula, look out for the next few hours. Weather picture this evening sent in by Lisa Mills, age 7, of Delmar. There's a person laying on the beach there, and there's some water off to the right of her with a shark fin. Once again, a very masochistic view of going to the beach, and perhaps if this picture was sequenced, the person would be eaten 24 hours later. But anyways, thanks for that shot. The tide information on top of that, your high tide's on the left and your low on the right. Winds northerly tomorrow, light at about 5 to 10 knots, but that'll keep the really oppressive hot, humid air out of here. Waves 1 foot on the bay, 1 to 2 ocean visibility, fair and haze. So the sun will rise at 6:21, set at 7:50. Dense fog in spots tonight, especially just after sunrise. You might want to allow a few extra moments if you have to get to work early. Low 69. Then tomorrow, increasing sunshine and warmer after the fog burns off, high 87. Looking ahead, sunny and maybe 90 on Thursday, although that may be pushing it. And then maybe the heat and humidity finally gets in here in force over the weekend with temperatures in the low 90s. And at 8 a.m., we'll say the soup disappears. It may be a little thick at that time, but it should be clearing up and 75 degrees. So, Don, the fog is here, but we'll be gone tomorrow.
All right. No S&S until Saturday.
That's right.
Searing heat and stifling humidity.
Exactly.
Just so everyone knows.
Right.
Moving along. The wife and mother of a convicted West Virginia murderer took the witness stand today and asked a Wicomico County jury to let the man they love live. Lisa Swann has more.
The second day of his resentencing hearing at the Wicomico County Circuit Court. Tichenor had been sentenced to die in Maryland's gas chamber for murdering a Garrett County sheriff last year. Tichenor told the jury today how he helped to steal guns from an Army-Navy store, how he was later stopped by the deputy sheriff, how he was bitten by the officer's dog, and how he was shot through the shoulder by the officer. He also described for the jury how he fired shots at the deputy sheriff. The prosecution contends Tichenor committed the murder in a getaway attempt and therefore should face the death penalty. Later, both Tichenor's mother and wife testified before the jury and asked that his life be spared. The resentencing trial came about when the Maryland Court of Appeals ruled there was a sentencing error by the judge. Tomorrow, the jury is expected to deliberate and come up with Tichenor's new sentence, either death or life in prison. Lisa Swann, Newswatch 47 at Circuit Court in Salisbury.
Well, moving along to sports, I guess Baltimore decided they'd like it better out than the West Coast. How are they doing?
Well, they're doing fairly well. We'll just have to wait and see. It's the 4th inning, and they lead 1-0. We'll get to that right now. The Baltimore Orioles are ahead against California, and that's just that game just underway. Once again, they are in the 4th inning. Eddie Murray got a home run in the top of the 2nd inning. That's the sole score of the game. 395-foot homer. We'll keep you posted as that game goes on. Elsewhere in the American League tonight, a couple of other scores. Cleveland over Chicago, 7-4, that in the 6th inning. And still elsewhere, Detroit 4, Milwaukee 2, that also in the 6th. 3-1 after 4 innings, or rather 9. George Brett did not get his hit in the bottom of the 8th, and we don't know whether or not he's gotten one as yet. Toronto 3, Minnesota 3, that after 6 innings. And Boston, Oakland, no score. 1 score in the Seattle area, Seattle, New York. That's 1 apiece in the top of the 3rd. In the National League, Philadelphia entertained San Diego tonight. It was Manny Trio tying the game with a home run, and Gary Maddox and Larry Boa followed with doubles in the 5th inning as the Phillies powered past the Padres 7-4. That's 5 straight and 8 out of the last 9 for the Phillies, and 8 straight losses for San Diego. In other games, Montreal leads Los Angeles 1-0 after 6. This is now final. Atlanta 5, Chicago 4. Phil Niekro, the winning pitcher. Rafael Ramirez hit a 2-run homer for the winners. San Francisco beat the Mets 5-4. That's a final. And another final 4-2. Cincinnati over St. Louis. Pittsburgh, Houston 5-2. Houston over Pittsburgh, and Houston now just loses a game against the Philadelphia Phillies. Well, the weekend-long White Marlin tournament wraps up tomorrow, and the most notable catches were made by a mother and daughter team. Julie Soros netted a 244-pound tuna, while mother Betty Soros caught a 250-pounder. Both those broke the old record. All in all, some 124 boats are taking part, and there's $25,000 in prize money up for grabs. The winning boat will take home the grand prize, $9,000 bucks. And the Avon Futures Tennis Championships will go on as planned the first week of April. That's the word from promoter Bill Reardon today from his home. The event was in question when the Wicomico Civic Center said the event would not be allowed there. Civic Center officials also thought Avon Future promoter Reardon had accused them of interfering with negotiations with Avon. Reardon, however, disagrees with any such statement.
My conversations with executives at Avon, they did receive some calls from people alleging to be various other people, which they were quite concerned about. And frankly, I think we can allay those fears. I've already instituted a poll of the citizens of Wicomico County, and I think the overwhelming majority will come out in favor of treatment for cancer. And basically all the money we're raising is going to the Cancer Radiation Center at Peninsula General Hospital, and I can't imagine anybody, politician or otherwise, coming out against it.
Reardon also says between $30,000 to $50,000 in proceeds from the Avon Futures will go to the new cancer center at Peninsula General Hospital. He also says comparing the World Championship tennis matches with the Avon Futures event is like comparing apples and oranges. Well, in sports shorts tonight, Oriole manager Earl Weaver has finally signed his contract. It calls for another 2 years at the helm. Weaver has managed the O since July of 1968, and he turned 50 last week and says he may retire after his 2 years are up. And former Baltimore Colts wide receiver Glenn Doughty, who was cut 3 weeks ago from the Colts, has been cut again, this time from Denver. It may be tough for someone to pick up his $90,000 a year contract. And that's a look at sports for tonight. I understand I'm just running out of time.
Okay, Marty, thank you very much. We'll have more of News Watch 47 after these messages.
Chapter 9. I kicked on the door and shouted freeze to the lone figure in the room. Even in the darkness, I could see she was the most beautiful woman I ever met. Then I saw the light beer from Miller. It's got a third less calories than a regular beer, and it's less filling, she whispered. But the best thing is, it tastes so great. Suddenly, all the pieces fell into place, and I knew I'd come to the end of a long, long road. She poured, we drank. To be continued.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
We interrupt this summer to bring you some of the refreshing smiles of winter.
A token of smile, makes me feel good, makes me feel nice. That's the way it should be. I like to see the whole world smiling with me. Coca-Cola as life, have a coconut smile.
If you see news happening, you are the most important reporter that we have working for us. If you see news happening, call the MDT tip line, 546-5177, 546-5177. That's the late night news. Just a reminder that Greg Fishel here, my partner, is lonely, he's single, and he's rich. We'll see you tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. Bye-bye.
Ask you if you'd consider operating on me.
One moment, I'll have to check with my colleague.
It's laughter all through dinner with MASH, weekdays at 7 on 47.
WMDT, TV47, Salisbury.
The Polish workers